Kapla warriors, today is a good day to finish my TNG tier list. As I mentioned yesterday, it took a whole lot longer than expected because of the whole concussion thing. Slowed me down a lot. I can only do an hour at a time instead of 2 hours. So I think at first I did 4 seasons and 2 streams, and then the last 3 have been spread out over 3. Does that sound right? Anyway, be finishing that up today. And also be playing the concussion song that my roommate made to try to cheer me up. I played that like 2 days ago. It's on Spotify now, and the YouTube video will come out after the stream. I'm gonna play that for you now. My roommate did this for me to try to cheer me up when I was put back on bed rest. All right. Okay, alrighty then. Just give me 1 second, sorry. All right, so here we go. We had ended with season 6. And so first it started with the part 2 of Descent, which we already ranked because I ranked those just as 1. This one, so then episode 2, I guess, is Liaisons, which is this episode where they have these like ambassadors from this other species, and they get paired with people to learn. And one is Counselor Troy with one of them, and then another was supposed to be paired with Riker, but he chooses to be paired with Worf instead. And then the last one is with Captain Picard, and they go on a shuttle because they're supposed to go to the planet or something, but they crash land. So this is actually a pretty funny episode. Not the stuff with Picard, but the stuff with Troy and Worf is really funny. Because, like, this guy is just really pissing off Worf. He's being a total jerk. And then the guy with Troy is, like, obsessed with dessert when he learns about dessert. And so it's pretty funny. And then Picard, though, he crash lands and he thinks that his, the other ambassador, the ambassador alien, is dead. And so Picard's, like, trying to figure it out. And he finds this lady in this, like, piece of a ship. And it's this lady. You can see her here. What's her name? She has, like, a regular name, I think. But she like she's been stranded there for 7 years supposedly, and she like falls in love with him and is like trying to get him to love her. She's like, I love you, and she seems like a total psycho. And then she's like trying to kiss him, and she's like, why won't you love me? And then she's like, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't love me. And then it turns out she's actually the alien ambassador, and the ambassador's missions had actually been to study pleasure, which the one studying pleasure, he gets obsessed with dessert because that's pleasure. Then antagonism, which is the guy with Worf, where he purposely pisses off Worf to study that. And then this person's job, the male alien who disguised himself as the woman, their job was to learn about love. And it's funny because Picard's like, I have to tell you, in my culture, what you have done would be considered a crime. And the guy's like, oh, interesting, crime, what's this? It's pretty funny. So it's a pretty funny episode. The Picard stuff is kind of creepy, but I would rank this one pretty high because the Worf plot is pretty good. Because Worf's trying super hard to like do a good job of like being an ambassador, even though he wasn't even supposed to. And the guy's like purposely pissing off Worf and like making him like get his food and stuff. So it's pretty funny. Next episode. So I'm ranking that one A tier. I wouldn't say it's S tier, but I enjoy it. It's funny. This one is Interface, which I do not care for. This is when, so they're trying this virtual reality probe that they use through Geordi to like project him into other areas and then view the area through Geordi's visor. And then so Geordi's been doing that, they've been experimenting with that, and then Geordi finds out his mother's ship is missing and she's presumed dead. And so, Otter. And so she's presumed dead, and Geordi's really upset, and he's upset, but he's also kind of being weird about it. Like, I don't know, he's kind of being a jerk to other people about it. And so he, then when he's using the probe next, he thinks he's convinced he sees his mother on this ship they're exploring with his special VR probe thing. And everyone's like, Geordi, it's definitely not your mother. And he's like, it totes is my mother. And then Geordi like risks his life, and Data helps him because he's his bestie. He risks his life and puts himself in danger to continue exploring the ship, but it turns out, no, it was not his mother. It was like an alien species that pretended to be his mother to communicate with him. But it helps Geordi because he gets to say goodbye. It's really stupid. Do not care for it. Gambit. Oh, this episode's so funny, Gambit. Isn't this a two-parter as well? Yeah, this is a two-parter. So Gambit is when they think Captain Picard... They're looking for Captain Picard in this bar, this alien. It's like a... It's supposed to be like a, Oh my god, my brain. Don't say it. It's a hive of scum and villainy. It's supposed to be like a Mos Eisley bar thing. Cantina. And then the guy's like, yeah, Picard, I saw him and he got shot. He's dead. So everyone's like really upset, and Riker's like, I won't accept it. And they're like trying to figure it out. And they're like, he got killed while on an archaeological mission, because you know how Picard loves archaeology. And then, while trying to investigate Picard's death, Riker, as it says here, is captured by pirates pillaging Romulan archaeological sites. So he gets captured by these pirates, and then, when he's on board with the pirates, he hears this voice that's like, you should just kill him. And he turns, and it's some peak acting in this scene. And it's Picard. But he's pretending he's being named Galen, I think. Because that was the name of his professor that he loved, I think. And he's playing this part. He's pretending to be like a mercenary archaeology guy. And so, yeah, it's the funniest ending ever, Charlemagne. Because Riker's like weird slow turn and then shocked face is like so bad. And it's funny because Picard's pretending to be like I said, like a mercenary kind of thing. So he does like this bad guy voice. And it's really funny because it's like, yeah, everybody knows when you're evil, your voice is deeper. And so that's part one. And then part two, he reveals to Riker his whole thing. He's tracking them because they're trying to find all the pieces of this thing to figure out about this ancient weapon. And then they end up working with this Vulcan woman, yeah? Vulcan woman. And they take down the bad pirate leader. And they go to the planet. And the Vulcan woman turns out to actually be like a double agent. She actually is evil. I think she wasn't Vulcan at all. She was Romulan. And she wants this weapon, what the hell? Weapon, because it's supposed to be like mass destruction. But Picard figured out. This weapon gets its power from negative feelings of the other person, like a person's feelings of aggression. So Picard's like, yo, everybody be super peaceful and calm. And then the weapon doesn't work. And that's what happens. And the weapon doesn't work. And they defeat her. And she's like, damn it. It's not great. But it's fairly entertaining. But it's funny because it's like so... I have a bad guy voice, Picard thing. Oh yeah, see, look, that's her face. She's trying to make the weapon work. Oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, not a great weapon. This episode, Phantasms. Oh yeah, Data starts having weird dreams, and he seems to be having like waking dreams. Like he tries to like, he thinks he sees something in Counselor Troy, so he like stabs the shit out of her. And he's convinced he's having these bizarre dreams. He's convinced he's seeing things like feeding on the crew. Right, if you're yeah. It's pretty funny. All those comments about that episode I'm enjoying. And so they're like, what's going on? So then they use the holodeck to go inside of Data's mind to see his dreams. And he's got Freud in there. And he's got all this stuff because he's trying to get Freud to help him out. And I don't know if you can see this. This is part of the hilarious part of the episode where they're eating a cake made of Counselor Troy in his nightmare. I know, it's kind of disturbing. And it's a Counselor Troy cake. It's a cellular peptide cake with mint frosting. And then there's like all this stuff, and then they figure out... what is the... I feel like this episode being so weird makes it hard to remember what the actual end is. Shoot. Let's go to Act 5 here. Oh, the new warp core was infested with interphasic organisms. So... They kill the creatures using Data's brain. Yeah, I did not remember that ending very well. I mean, like, yeah, Charlemagne, I understood the general ending, because, like, it all is the thing being eaten. But I was like, what precisely is it? It's a weird freaking episode. I'm probably going to D-tier this one. I mean, it's definitely great for memes, and I do enjoy the cellular... I've always wanted to make a cake with mint frosting and be like, it's a cellular peptide cake. Yeah, and he stabs the hell out of Counselor Troy. Like, damn. He really wanted to get those worm things out. This episode is super depressing. Dark Page. It's the last... It's like the wrap-up of RogSon Troy on TNG, but don't worry, she'll appear on DS9. Super depressing. So she comes with these aliens who, they communicate only telepathically. So she's teaching them how to speak so that they can communicate with non-telepathic species, because she can communicate with them, and, you know, other telepathic betazoids can. I say others because Counselor Troy's not telepathic because she's halvesies. And so she's trying to teach them to speak, and, like, one of them, like, is like, hey, you want to marry me, Deanna? And something interesting about this episode is, sorry, I'm grabbing my water because I'm starting to feel bad. Interesting about this episode, Kirsten Dunst plays the little girl in it. So that's pretty funny. Oh, wonder if this was I guess this was probably before Jumanji. But anyway, RogSon Troy is like, she goes into like this coma, and the alien guy is like, dark thoughts are bothering your mother, and Deanna's like, what is this? And so then they like create this link between her, a telepathic link between her and her mother who's in the coma, using the alien guy, who, when he telepathically communicates, he does it by staring you down super intensely. Which, like, what's the point of being telepathic if you gotta stare at them too? Is it through your eyes? Anyway, and in this, by going in there, her mother keeps fighting her off and being like, no, please, go away. And she's like, mother, I have to save you. And so in it, this episode is such a crazy plot twist. Yeah, you know, Charlemagne, I totally agree. This makes RogSon way more interesting as a character, because she just was kind of ridiculous before. She's much more interesting here. They, like, make her into more of a character instead of just, like, a running gag. You find out, huge plot twist, Deanna Troy had an older sister. And when she was 8 years old, they were out on when the sister was around 8 years old, right? And Deanna was just a baby. They were out for a family picnic, and the daughter drowned when the parents were distracted. Although I take issue with this being the way she dies, because I feel like in this time period, you're telling me they couldn't revive her from drowning. Like, I feel like you can grow Worf a spine and give Captain Picard an artificial heart, but you can't revive someone from drowning after, like, not that long. I feel like it couldn't have been that long. Anyway, so yeah, so it's super sad. Her name was Kestra. That was her sister's name. It's super sad because, like, RogSon Troy is, like, obviously, she's had this trauma for decades that she's just kind of pushed away. They can't cure bald, that's right. Well, apparently Gene Roddenberry did speak out about that, and he said, no, in the future people just won't care about baldness. That was his response. I feel like even if she had drowned, with the medicine of this time, you're telling me they couldn't revive her? That seems really implausible to me. Like, yeah, nowadays, sure, but, like, in a couple hundred years, with all the other stuff they've got. What up, Water9921? Anyway, so, RogSon Troy has to finally face this trauma that she's pushed away and talk to Kestra. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. I can't even talk about that scene. It's so sad. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I know, Mom, you know, and it's, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. That's all I'm saying about it. It's too upsetting. So honestly, I would rank this episode high because, like Charlemagne was saying, it really improves Luoxana Troy as a character. I'll put that high B tier. They make her so much more interesting because she always was just kind of a gag, and then they just round her out and it's like, wow, she's a person. So that's why I would rank it high. Water dude, I'll do that. I try to be respectful and say the whole name most of the time until I get to know you better. Sleepy's just Sleepy now. All right. Directed by Jonathan Frakes. This episode is so funny. Okay, so Picard and Dr. Crusher, there's this world that's like split between two species. Oh, what are they called? The the Kesprit. This is the Kesprit planet or moon. And they're divided by between the two species, the Kess and the Prit, who are like, don't get along. And Picard and Crusher were gonna go meet with the Kess or the Prit, I don't remember. And they get beamed, but then they don't show up at their location where they're supposed to be beamed. We're doing a tier list of Season 7 TNG, Next Generation. Oh, I'm not saying I hate Uwu Sleepy, I'm just saying we're friends now, so I can shorten, I'm nicknaming you Sleepy. And then, so it turns out they've gotten kidnapped by the, okay, so which one kidnapped them? I have to get this straight. They're kidnapped by the, shit, which one kidnapped? Okay, the Prit kidnapped them. And they're in a jail cell, him and Picard, but then some Kess agents help them get out and escape, but then they're still stuck in the Prit territory. And then while they're trying to get to the border of Kess and Prit, I really am not enjoying having to say this over and over. They figure out that something has been put in their like brains or bodies that has connected them telepathically, and they can't they can't travel too far apart from each other, like distance-wise. Like if they go more than like a meter apart, they experience intense nausea, and so they're telepathically linked. So, you know, every season that was my dog. She finished her, and when the peanut butter jar's empty, I put it in the freezer, and she gets essence of peanut butter jar, and she's letting us know she finished it, and she's bored now. So they've always had the will they won't they with Picard and Crusher, and now they can read each other's thoughts, and she's like, OMG, Picard, you were in love with me when I was with Jack, and he's like, oh, you know it, babe. And they're just having all their stupid talks around the fire. I don't love them as a couple. And then I'm dizzy again. Thanks, Water, for joining on Twitch. And then, sorry, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. Did some driving today, and my concussion does not seem to like driving. Guys, help me out here. Oh yeah, so then eventually they get rescued, and then they get untelepathically connected, and they're like, it was very intimate, and she's like, yes, it was. Yeah, it's fine. It's not my favorite. It's fine. I'll give it a high B tier. I don't love it. I just don't really like them as a couple. Sorry, am I going too fast, Charlemagne? Or you mean too fast for myself? Force of Nature. I take serious issue with this episode. So there's been disappearance of some ships. They eventually track it down to these two scientists who've been, like, taking the ships or whatever. And it's because they've been trying to get people's attention. Because their data shows that warp drive is destructive to the fabric of space and of subspace, and it creates like holes. Thanks, Pink Pants, for following on Twitch. So it puts holes in subspace, and it's very bad. So because all the Federation ships have been traveling at because all the Ferengi, oh shit, my brain's shutting down. They've been traveling at warp speed, and these scientists are like, you're damaging subspace. And they're like, all right, we'll consider your data. Well, it's a brother and a sister scientist. The sister's like, well, that's not good enough. So she sacrifices herself and commits suicide by flying her ship and like exploding it to show like, okay, this is what's gonna happen over time because of the warp drive. She does like a warp core breach or whatever, and then it creates the hole, and they're like, shit, she was right. Is that the end of the episode? And so then there's this whole thing. Wait a minute. Am I forgetting? It seems like I'm forgetting something here, or am I just... Daemon... Wait a minute, what's happening? I don't remember this Daemon stuff. Oh, no, okay, that's why. Yeah, that's just an unimportant thing. So yeah, then they're like, well, shoot. And then so the Federation Council is like, okay, yeah, Charlemagne, this is exactly where I'm going with it. It's stupid because they're like, the Federation is like, okay, you have to get special permission to go over warp, like, what is it, 7? And you can only do it. And Worf's like, well, the Klingons will follow that, but the Romulans won't. And they're putting these regulations on warp speed, like a speed limit, basically. And then they do mention it in at least one other season 7 episode. They're like, I think it's in the Pegasus. They're like, oh, you have permission to exceed warp 7 for this. It's warp 5. Oh my god. They're like, you have permission to exceed warp limits. And they're like, cool. And then it's never mentioned again in DS9 and Voyager or anything. And they just do it. And I mean, in Voyager, they even break the warp barrier, or they exceed warp 10. And it's ridiculous because, yeah, they don't bring it up again. And it also, like, it's a huge problem in this universe. Yeah, Water, this is, you can watch all 5 parts on the YouTube channel. So, yeah, it's a huge problem in this universe because it's just not fun. Yeah, it's a big plot point to drop. Also, since it's fiction, adding in the whole subspace thing, it's not fun. It's just not fun to have the warp speed limits. Like, no thanks, this is fiction, let's have it be fun. So I hate this episode. That's F tier for me. It's like, no. Next is Inheritance. This actress also appears in DS9, Season 1, I believe. Maybe in Voyager, I don't remember. I would bet she does, though. I feel like this woman, like, I would like to age like her. I feel like she's clearly, like, you know, 50s, 60s, but she's really pretty. So I hope I age as well as her. This is Dr. Juliana Tainer, who comes on board for something or other as a scientist. And she's like, Data, I'm your mother. And Data's like, nah. And it turns out, yeah, she was married to Noonien Soong, and she helped create Data. She talks about Data's childhood and the creation of lore. And she feels terribly guilty because she encouraged Noonien to leave Data behind on the planet when they had to escape the crystalline entity because she was afraid he'd turn out like Lore, and she didn't want to have to deactivate him too. Anyway, then she gets injured at one point and she's unconscious, so they go to the sick bay, and it turns out, oh shit, she's an android, an even better one than Data because she has emotions, she even has tears, and she looks, you know, she's not yellowish. And so it turns out that the real Juliana Tainer was injured escaping the crystalline entity and died, and Noonien Soong couldn't bear it, so he made this android of her, and she had no idea. And they find out because they find, like, in her brain, they find, like, this chip that Data takes to the holodeck, and it's, I'm here to answer any questions you have about Juliana. And he's like, I'm Data. And then he's like, oh, I even created a sub-program for if it was Data that discovered it. It's like, oh, how convenient. How did you know Data would even get off the planet? Like, I guess he's a genius and he considers all contingencies. So anyway, he's like, it's up to you if you want to tell her or not. And he decides not to tell her because he feels like he'll be taking humanity away from her and it won't improve her life. I actually like this episode pretty well. Give it... Ooh, I feel like low A tier is too high, but I don't know. Okay, Parallels. Oh, I hate this episode, you guys, because I hate, as I've mentioned before, I hate alternate realities, dimensions, timelines, all that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Oh, I'm with you, Blacklight. Like, how come every other android is better? Like, it wouldn't have been that much after Data that he made her android. So, like, how come her android is, like, flawless if she was made shortly after Data? What the heck? Also, like, why is Data's skin yellowish? That doesn't even make sense in the first place. Anyway. Yeah, so this one, Worf is traveling home from a Batleth tournament where he came in first. He was victorious, and he arrives on the Enterprise, and it's his birthday, and they're celebrating his birthday. But then later, like, oh, whoa, things are happening that are weird. Like, he goes into his quarters, and Counselor Troy's there, and she says he's his wife. And then another time, he's back at his birthday, but the cake's a different flavor. And before, Captain Picard wasn't there, but now he is. And then, oh wait, he actually got third. And then, like, another time he wakes up and like, Nurse Ogawa's the doctor. Like, all these things are happening. They figure out it's because he's in alternate dimensions. Because I don't remember why. So they have to fix it. And so that's the whole, this kind of brings about the whole Worf Counselor Troy romance, which is so ill-advised. It's just, they don't mesh. And he's like, what about my son Alexander? And his Counselor Troy's like, we have 2 children, Ian Andrew and something else. And so then they fix it all, and yay, I hate it. F tier, because A, I hate those types of episodes, and B, it brings Counselor Troy and Worf together, which is unacceptable. They just don't, they just have no chemistry. They don't make sense as a couple. I hate it. Whereas Kalar and Dax are like, they have a lot of personality similarities, so it's like, yeah, it makes sense them together. Worf kind of goes for those opposites kind of thing. This episode, this was Riker's original commanding officer aboard the Pegasus when he was just a wee cadet, or I guess a wee ensign. And when he was an ensign, he got, like, on his ship there was a mutiny, and Riker defended the captain, but now as an older man, he's questioning whether he should have defended the captain. The rest of the crew died. They're out looking for the Pegasus because they've found it, and they have to get it to it before the Romulans. And it turns out the reason is top secret. The reason is the Pegasus actually was carrying secret cloaking device technology, and that was the cause of the mutiny, because cloaking technology is against the Treaty of Algernon, which stated that the Federation would never make cloaking technology, which, I'm sorry, that's a whack treaty. Like, why would you agree to that? That's insane. It was a treaty, I think, with the Romulans, or maybe with other groups too, where they're like, yep, sure, only Klingons and Romulans get cloaking technology. And I'm like, that's insane. That's a terrible deal. But anyway, so Riker defended the captain, and now he's like, I should have fought against you because creating that cloaking stuff was illegal. And so then in the end, it comes out, and oh man, I missed the best though. This episode starts out with Captain Picard Day, which is awesome. It's hilarious. He's like, haha, I'm a role model. It's really funny because the kids have created Captain Picard art, and like one does like a lumpy clay sculpture, one of them creates a doll. It's really funny. I wish we had Captain Picard Day in real life. Anyway, yeah, the Treaty of Algernon, weird. Yeah, and Riker like defends the captain, and he and the captain escape, and the rest of the crew die because the cloaking device gets them stuck like halfway in a moon, right? They materialize like halfway in and halfway out. And then the Romulans find out that they violated the treaty, but Picard's like, yo, it's cool, because we're not going to do it no more. And it's like, okay. He's like, it's illegal. And it's funny because you're violating a treaty the Federation made in good faith. And the captain's like, the admiral's like, well, that's a stupid treaty. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of with you there, bro. Just say C tier. Homeward. Homeward is, they have lost contact with, shoot, what's his name? Rozhenko. Worf's brother's name, Nikolai Rozhenko. who is like an anthropologist. And he has been studying this group, the Parallels, and their planet is dying, so they're gonna die. And he wants to save them. But Picard's like, nah, sorry, bro, we just let people die. Prime directive. And Nikolai's, well, that's bullshit, but okay. So he comes on the Enterprise, and he's like, oh, so sad. But then it turns out, oh, psych! He, beamed the group of Parallels he was studying onto the Enterprise into the holodeck by creating what looks like caves on their planet. And he has disguised himself as a Parallel. So he's already been violating the Prime Directive, I think, by disguising himself and interacting with the Parallels. We later find out he's even got a girlfriend who's pregnant, which I feel like there's going to be some issues when that child is born, and it's... I mean, I guess they'll just be like, wow, his bridges are so small. That's what she said. And, so... yeah, and so he violated the Prime Directive, and he's like, I don't care. And so then they have to find a new planet to move them to, and keep them on the holodeck the whole time, convincing them they're traveling through caves. I know, it's totally Charlemagne. Doctor, when we go back to the thing, I'll check what I rated Darmok, but I believe that was S or A tier. So yeah, so Worf has to go and help, too, and disguise himself as a Parallel. Is there any picture? There's a small picture, but I wanted a bigger one. And so they're trying to convince them that they've been traveling through caves, and they're like, this, when we get through the caves, you know, lots of things will be different. You know, the plants and even the stars might be different. And this guy here's like, why would the stars be different? And he's like, you know how it be. Glad you're here out of context. My head hurts, but I'm trying to get through season 7. This guy is a reused actor. He is in TNG. He's one of the goats. He's in TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Yeah, he did, and he even got a alien baby now. And so this guy, but unfortunately, this guy's their historian. He creates these awesome scrolls where he draws art depictions of their history. And he's the keeper. You know, he's the one of his generation, but he's the keeper, so he's got all their scrolls that he's been holding on to for all this time. He drops it at one point, so he's like, I gotta go back for it real quick. He goes back, but then he accidentally somehow brings up the holodeck exit and wanders into 10 forward. So he finds the gig's up with him, or is it the jig's up? I don't know. It's up with him, and he finds out what happened, and he's like, well, shit, what am I gonna do with myself? He's like, Picard's like, what's your plans? You gonna stay with us? You gonna go back? And if you do go back, you're gonna tell him? You're gonna keep it secret? In the end, he chooses ritual suicide, which is very sad, because he's like, I cannot live with this, because I can't go back and destroy my people, but I can't stay here. I can't go back and keep this secret. It's super sad. So they eventually succeed with the whole plan, and they get them to the new planet. Yay! What drives me crazy, though, is, so Worf and his brother fight a lot because they didn't get along. They're very different. They make up, and they're like, and Worf's like, I will tell our parents that you are well. And what kills me, though, is there's one of the historical scrolls. This guy had drawn it, Worf coming to help, Worf and Nikolai helping them through the caves and saving them. Worf picks up the scroll. He's like, can I take this with me, Nikolai? And Nikolai's like, totes. I'm like, what the hell? You basically just stole a section of their history. There's no other record of this. No, you can't take that with them. This isn't a souvenir. Like, what the heck? They've already lost tons of their scrolls. They could only save so many, and now you're taking one more as a souvenir. It drives me insane. However, I do agree with Nikolai about the Prime Directive. I'm gonna B tier this one. Like, I get the whole Prime Directive thing, but at the same time, it's like, come on. Worf's brother, yes, Tony Todd, who they did not put in the memoriam at the Oscars. Worf's brother, also, he's grown up, Jake. And he plays... Oh, he's also in Voyager. He plays... Oh, shoot, what's their name with the scary faces and they take trophies? They're really scary. So he's another goat of the reused actors. Yeah, he wasn't in the Oscars memoriam. Not cool, guys. Anyway, so that drives me insane about this episode. On to what I consider to be the worst Star Trek episode of all time. Hirogen, thank you, Doctor. Nice. Those ones freak me out. I firmly believe this is the worst Star Trek episode of all time. Some people think it's the one with the Breaking Warp 10, but I don't agree. We can skip it, Charlemagne. I'll summarize it very quickly, because it is upsetting. Dr. Crusher and Ghost Sex. If you want to know more, it is F tier. If you want to know more about it, you can Google it. It's the worst thing ever. Next is, Lower Decks. This is my favorite episode of TNG. I think it's the best one ever. So, Lower Decks. This episode is unique, never done before, where they focus on some of the ensigns. Yeah, plus Patrick Swayze. Hottest actor of all time. Maybe tied with Harrison Ford. I might put him above Harrison Ford even. So focuses in part on the ensigns. So it starts where the ensigns are at their table in 10 forward, and for some reason, Counselor Troy and Riker are doing crew reviews, quarterly reviews or whatever, assessments. I'm missing the correct word. Someone fix me with the right word here. And they feel that the good place to do this with nice confidentiality would be 10 forward, where everyone can hear. So that's interesting. And I'm like, that's got to be a violation. Like, that's insane. I've actually haven't seen very many Patrick Swayze movies. The main one I've seen is, I've seen a few, of course, but the main one is Dirty Dancing, because my mom felt that was appropriate when I was like 5 years old. I was very confused, because I was like, wow, that man's awfully handsome, but I'm 5. Anyway, so it focuses on the lives of the ensigns as well. You got Ensign Sito, you got the hot ensign here whose name I forgot. You got Nurse Ogawa, and then you got this Vulcan guy who also plays a Vulcan in Voyager. And then, yeah, and so then, you know, they're hoping to get promotions, and it's talking about that. And then Ensign Sito, performance review. Thank you, Erasmus. That was pissing me off. I know, Charlemagne, this one makes me bawl my eyes out, legit. So Ensign Sito, Worf is friends with Ensign Sito. He does do a Geek Tal challenge, and okay, wait. First, Picard calls in Ensign Sito, and he's like, she was part of the group that Wesley was with at the Academy, who tried to cover up the accident with Nick Locarno, who's basically Tom Paris. And so Picard calls her in. He's like, so obviously you've got low moral character and you suck. And she's like, okay, Captain. And then Worf does a Geek Tal, where he's like, it's a challenge. And she's like, isn't Geek Tal fake? This challenge fake, it's really hard. And he's like, well, maybe next time it will not take so many bruises before you stand up for yourself. So then that inspires her to go back to Picard, and she's like, look, you're wrong about my moral character. I learned from that, and blah, blah, blah. And Picard's like, all right, great. I was considering you for a special assignment, and I wanted to see if you had it what it takes. I'm going to start crying before I even get into this part. It's too upsetting. So there's a secret assignment they have her for, and he's like, it's totally optional. They call her in, and she's like, there's this Cardassian who's a defector who's been smuggling information to them. Oh, I'm getting dizzy. And so this Cardassian is smuggling information. They've got to get him safely back into Cardassian territory. Their plan for this is to use her, pretend she's a Cardassian prisoner, and because she's Bajoran, and then she sneaks back in an escape pod is the plan. And they're like, it's crucial we get this guy back to continue, because we've got to stop the Cardassians because they're assholes. And Picard's like, look, this is a super freaking dangerous mission. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to order you. And then she's like, then I volunteer, sir. Sorry, I'm starting to lose it. And so she volunteers, and Worf has like this special relationship with her. Not a pervy one, because Worf ain't that way. Well, maybe he's a little that way with that one Klingon girl, but... and then the doctor puts the bruises on her, and she goes on there, and... they're all waiting. There's a rendezvous point where she's supposed to rendezvous in the escape pod. She misses the deadline in the escape pod. They keep waiting and waiting and waiting. some of them, you know, not everybody, the hot ensign doesn't know where she went, but Nurse Ogawa kind of knows about it a little bit, and the Vulcan knows about it a little bit because he helped prepare the shuttle, and Nurse Ogawa helped with the Cardassian that was injured. And so she's missing. They don't know where she went. The rendezvous point. She hasn't met the rendezvous. Oh my god. She hasn't met the rendezvous point, and then like they're like, keep scanning for life signs, send out a probe. And then the hot ensign, I know he has a name, but I'm just gonna call him the hot ensign. I think he looks like young Tom Cruise. He's like, it would help if I knew what kind of life signs to scan for. And they're like, you're scanning for Bajoran life signs. And then eventually, I literally have tears streaming down my face, you guys. Eventually, they do find signs. Through secret channels, they capture a Romulan transmission talking about how they killed a Bajoran prisoner who had escaped. And so then Picard goes on and he does this speech, and and he like says how she'll be remembered and stuff, and they're all like devastated. It's super sad. And yeah, so she dies, and it's very upsetting. And then they reference her on Lower Decks later, that Mariner was friends with her. Anyway, and in the end, Worf is sitting at 10 forward, just looking out, feeling really sad. And then the guy, who I feel really bad that I forgot his name, the waiter guy, he's like, hey, you should go sit with them. And Worf's like, I can't. They were her friends. I was just a commanding officer. And he's like, I happen to know she considered you a friend. So Worf goes and sits and drinks his prune juice with them. And that's the end. Whew, we're moving on, guys. My head's starting to hurt. Top of S tier. Oh, man. Oh, shit. Tony Todd was in Indiana Jones. And the Secret Circle. Oh, no way. Oh, my God. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because I'm sobbing, Blacklight. I have tears streaming down my face. Oh, my gosh. Ugh. That episode. No matter... I'm not even watching it right now, and it's making me cry my eyes out. Whew. Okay. Thine own self. So Data is recovering some radioactive material, but he gets in an accident, and he crawls into this town that's kind of like medieval-ish. But he suffered amnesia. He doesn't remember anything. He doesn't even know that he's... I know, Otter, it's rough. It's like, I can't even talk about it. That's why I never rewatched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It makes me cry my eyes out. Also, when I was rereading Harry Potter, the whole time, because I was thinking about all the sad parts. Oh, I forgot to mention one line from Lower Decks that I always quote. So, no one told you to do that, Ensign. I always use that quote. Anyway, so Data has amnesia. This nice guy who I think he's the mayor, maybe, and his daughter take him in and they befriend him. And he's like learning, but then the whole town is getting sick. And Data has his case of the radioactive material, but he doesn't know what radioactive means. He can read it. So they sell the radioactive metal because they're like, that'll get you some money. They nickname him... Shoot, what name do they give him? Jaden, something like that. And so the whole town is getting sick, and they're like, he gave us this illness. And it's like, yeah, he did. But Data figures out what caused the illness, but he still doesn't know he's an android. He gets hit in the face, and that exposes his wires and shit. And he's like, what am I? Excuse me. That's true, Charlemagne. Cardassians are not good to their prisoners. And then, he gets killed, but not before he pours a cure for the radioactivity disease, the drugs, into the well. So he cures them all, but he gets killed. And then later, Crusher and Riker come down in disguise, and they're like, hey, we're looking for a friend. He might have been kind of weird looking. And she's like, oh yeah, he was my friend. We buried him over there. And they beam him up, and they're able to revive him. I can't really tell you why, but I like this episode. I'm giving it a high B tier. I wouldn't say it's A tier quality, but for some reason I enjoy this. There are 4 lights. That's right. Oh god, this is one of the worst episodes of TNG. Like, they were clearly out of ideas. Oh god, I can't even talk about this episode. Is so terrible. They're investigating a comet. A cultural archive concealed inside the comet releases like the spirit of this ancient culture and their gods, and then like 1,000+ people's personalities are inside of Data, and they make fun of it on Lower Decks. I love this. I know, totally. Charlemagne is 100% radiation poisoning. Thank you, Erasmus. Jeez. Charlemagne's so right. Whoever wrote this episode was on drugs. This is like the Yellow Submarine of TNG episodes. Like, what the hell? It's hard to even explain it because it's so absurd. It like starts changing the Enterprise into like a temple and creating the masks. And then they're able to solve it, but like, oh my god, it's F tier but above ghost sex. It's so freaking weird. Like, I can't even, it would take me an hour to explain it. Like, you're better off just watching it, I guess. This is another episode I hate that is weird AF. Not weird like the last one, weird just like, why? This one is this one where crewman unalives himself. I remembered that's what you're supposed to say on the internet. He unalives himself abruptly. He says, I know what I have to do. And he unalives himself. Counselor Troy's investigating it, and she figures out what it even is. I can't even explain this because it's so weird. Oh, yeah. He was like part empathic or telepathic, and he got these memories from someone else. And I can't even like explain this one. So he starts to do it, and then Counselor Troy goes crazy, and she starts to try to unalive herself, and they figure out that there was a murder that occurred that was hidden, and somehow it got inside an empathic person's brain, and it got inside their brains, and it got passed on, and made everybody want to unalive themselves. It's terrible. It's so weird. It's F tier as well. Like, I can't even explain it because it's just so twisted and stupid. Genesis. Oh, God. Okay, I gotta get off that photo. Sorry, guys. Genesis. Whew. I actually love the Betazoid guy on Voyager. He's one of my favorite Voyager characters. Ensign Suitor. Not because he's a murderer, but because of his character development. He's awesome. Anyway, this episode... Oh, gotta get my steps in, guys. I've only had 63 out of 250 this hour. So this episode is, Picard and Data were off the ship. They come back to the ship, and everyone has gotten a virus that de-evolves them. So nobody's human or Klingon or anything anymore. They've de-evolved, which this episode, so like Barclay Barclay's a spider, right? Somebody's a spider. And then Counselor Troy's a frog. Riker's a caveman, which I feel like there should have been a joke where they're like, Riker seems the same. Oh, wait, okay. And then like, oh no, he's a caveman. Okay, sorry, hard to tell. Part of it doesn't make sense to me though, because I'm like, Barclay being a spider makes no sense. Like, the common ancestor between humans and spiders, like, there might be a common ancestor, but it wouldn't be a spider. Like, it would be like, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, cave chat. Oh my god, that's perfect, Doctor. And then, so everybody's de-evolved, and they have to come up with a cure, which I think they then release through the like error system. And it all started with Barclay, but I can't remember why it started with Barclay. Something that happened with Barclay. Oh yeah, and the way they cure it is Spot, Data's cat, who was originally who was originally male, by the way, and not an orange tabby. Spot is now male, and an orange is now female. My god. Spot was originally male. Spot is now a female orange tabby. And then, let me see. Oh yeah, she was pregnant with kittens. Barclay was going to take care of her. And she had her kittens, but the kittens, Spot has devolved into whatever, but the kittens have stayed normal. So they use the kittens to create the cure, and they cure everybody, and they evolve back into humans, all normal-like. It's horrifying. It's so scary. I'm leaning towards C tier for this one. It's pretty freaky. Counselor Troy with the frog thing. Oh god, it's gonna make me sick. It's gross. Journey's End is when we get rid of Wesley. Celebrate good times, come on. Although I'm not a fan of this ending for him. Alright, sitting back down. So, this is the whole thing where there's... So, they've had the treaty with the Cardassians, and this is a recurring issue in DS9 and Voyager with the whole Maquis, because there's areas where Federation citizens had been living, but then after the treaty, their land was Nar Cardassian. So they have to leave, basically. And so they don't want to leave, and they're refusing to leave, and it's a problem. And this native guy is like, Picard, your ancestor killed Native Americans, so I know you're gonna help us. And it's like, okie doke. Wesley's here. He's home from the academy, about to graduate, and he's being a total a-hole. He's being super rude, and just like a total jerk for no reason. And he meets a Native American who has him do a spirit journey where he sees his father and blue-biddy-doo. And then he's like, what you're doing is wrong, Captain Picard. And he's like, okay, well, when you're in command, you can decide. Because he like interferes with Worf. They were gonna beam the people off because they were still refusing to leave, but they wanted to save them from getting killed by the Cardassians. And Wesley interferes, and people almost get hurt. And Picard's like, well, right now you're a freaking cadet. When you're in charge, you can decide. And while you wear that uniform, you listen to me. And he's like, well, then I'm not gonna wear your uniform anymore. So he quits the Federation. And then it turns out the Native American who'd helped him with his spirit journey. Let's see, is he down here? Nope. He was actually the Traveler. The Traveler from Tau Ceti, right? From season 1. And he wants Wesley to come with him because he's supposed to come with him and explore other planes of existence as a traveler because he's gifted, just like the Traveler said. So that gets rid of Wesley. It's really stupid. He can now, like, try time travel and, like, dimension reality travel. And in the end, they do this thing to let the natives keep their land. They agree with the Cardassians that they can stay, but they're giving up their Federation citizenship, basically. So, yeah. So true, Doctor. I hate the Traveler, too. It's a stupid plot thing. He's kind of like Q, but less interesting. This one's D tier for me. I do not care for it. Ooh. This one. Oh, this one. So, future Alexander is in this episode, played by the actor who also plays that Romulan defector earlier in TNG, and he plays Dr. Mora in DS9, who worked with Odo, and he's in one episode of Voyager. So another one of those triple reused actors. And so Worf takes Alexander to a Klingon festival, and they're like, Keles Molor Giktal. And then while they're there at the festival, they get attacked, and this other Klingon helps them out. And he's like, yeah, Duras sisters were trying to kill you. And they're like, thanks for helping us. And so then the guy, that other Klingon, he befriends Alexander, and he's like, you gotta train to be a warrior, Alexander, because your father almost got killed. And Alexander's like, yeah. And they make friends. But then in the end, Worf's upset because it's almost time for the Rite of Ascension for Alexander, so he has to basically... It's like his, what do you call it in Catholicism when you guys know what I'm talking about. So he has to be like, I'm gonna declare that I'm gonna become a warrior and commit myself to it. But Alexander's like, I'm not ready. I don't know if I want to do that at all. Mom always said I didn't have to. And Worf's like, well, you don't have to. And he's like, okay, then I'm not. So Worf's bummed out. They go to the festival. Worf almost gets killed. Now Alexander's like, oh, maybe I should become a warrior. Confirmation. Thank you, Otter. And then the guy befriends them, and then, shit. But then in the end, Alexander's like, no, oh yeah. So he's training him, and he's like, Alexander like fights the guy on the holodeck, and then the other Klingon guy is like, okay, now kill him. And Alexander's like, no, that's not my way. And he's like, it's the Klingon way, you have to. And Alexander's like, no, I thought you understood me. And he's upset. So then that night, Worf catches that Klingon guy, sorry, I can't remember his name, trying to kill Alexander. And Worf's like, bro, what the hell? And Worf takes him down, because Worf is the greatest warrior of all. And he's like, no, Worf, don't kill me. I'm Alexander. Look in my eyes. And he's like, what the heck? He's like, so what happened is, he's future Alexander. He came from the future because he wants to prevent what happened in the future, which is that Alexander never became a warrior. He became a peacemaker. He tried to create peace with enemies. Worf was like, you're not going to be able to do this. And Alexander was like, you're just an out-of-date old man. You're an old man and a fool. And then Worf gets killed right in and dies in Alexander's arms. Gets barrels, PlayfulOtter. You don't know what those barrels were made out of. And so Worf dies right in front of Alexander, dies in his arms, and Alexander's devastated, so he goes back in time to try to convince his young self to become a warrior so he could protect Worf and wouldn't try to create peace. And then Worf's like, no, this isn't the way. If that's what's supposed to happen to me, that's what's supposed to happen. And you've already changed the past now. Now I know you better, and blah, blah, blah. It's very emotional. He's like, I love you, Father. And he's like, I love you too. It's a pretty good one. Let's say B tier. Bloodlines. So once again, Damon Bach is around. I don't know why they're always bringing Damon Bach back. Haha, Bach back. Bach, Bach, Bach. So, Damon Bach is like, I'ma kill your son just like you killed my son, Picard. Picard's like, I ain't got no son. And then he's like, oh yeah, remember that chick you slept with? And he's like, oh shit. So there's this guy who looks nothing like Picard and is much larger than him. But that's his son. What? And so then, and I know I hate Bach episodes too, Charlemagne. And so then Picard brings this guy on board, and he's like, so let's blood test you and see if you're my son. And they're like, he is your son, based on the blood test. And Picard's trying to be like a father figure, form a bond with him. But the guy's stressed out because Bach's trying to kill him, right? Then Bach finally captures him, and he's gonna kill him. But back on the Enterprise, Dr. Crusher is like, so this guy, Jason, had developed has showing signs of a genetic disease. And they're like, that's so weird. Well, Dr. Crusher figured out it's because he's not your son. Bach used magic to resequence his DNA to make it look like he's your son. And that's why he has the genetic disease. So then Picard goes, and he's like, yo, Bach, I know this isn't my son. And Bach's like, well, damn, okay. So that's the end of that episode. And then, but they become friends. And it's kind of sweet, because I always like seeing Picard having his little father moments. Because I have daddy issues. And I pretend that Rupert Giles is my father and Jean-Luc Picard is my grandfather. Anyway, and then they fix his DNA through more magic, and all is well. I hate Bach, but I love Picard as a father, so I'm low B in tier in this. Hey James, glad you made it. Almost done here. Emergence. Oh god, another bad episode. They did not finish strong. This is this freaking weird thing. Basically, long story short, with a bunch of weird holodeck stuff, the Enterprise is creating its own consciousness and offspring. So it creates this, let's see, do they show it? There's all these weird holodeck scenes. Oh, they're not gonna show it? Oh, here we go. And then the little puzzle thing is a life form, and away it goes out into space. So the Enterprise gave birth, basically. It's this F-tier nonsense with weird holodeck BS. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Alright, preemptive strike. So Ensign Ro is now Lieutenant Ro, and Picard had recommended her for a specialized training. So she comes back, and Picard's like, I'm super proud of you, daughter. And she's like, I'm proud of you, Picard Daddy. Or, I mean, I love you, Picard Daddy. I value your pride. And, so, yeah, you're probably right, Charlemagne. Congratulations, it's a ship. Credit to Otter on that I didn't write that line. So, Lieutenant Rowe, now they want her to do this special, undercover mission where she, still having word-finding problems. Where she goes in, she sneaks in to the group. Oh, she infiltrates the Maquis. Was she gonna be the main Bajoran? Oh, I can't believe she declined the role. I guess because she was on a few episodes of Battlestar Galactica, but I can't imagine that's why. So she goes and she infiltrates the Maquis, and she meets them and this old man who knows how to make spicy Hasbrat, and he plays the balaclava, both of which things her father did. So this is like for the first time getting her in touch with her childhood and her culture, because she's pushed that all away because it was extremely traumatic. But then she starts to get close to the Maquis, and she starts to she's like, I don't know, it's starting to feel like this is my place. And then Picard's like, hey, it seems like you're getting too attached to these people. Maybe I should take you out of this mission. And she's like, no, I can do it. And she's like, no, I'm gonna do this. I've gotta do this for Picard. But then in the end, she can't go through with it. And she cancels, Riker, she's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna send Riker with you to help finish the mission. She's like, fine. But then she can't go through with it. She lets Riker go, and she reveals the thing to the Maquis that they were gonna get caught. It's so sad. She's like, this part makes me cry a little bit when she's like, can you tell Captain Picard something? You know, can you tell him I'm sorry? And thank you, or something like that. And then, you know, Riker goes back, and because she's found her place with the Maquis, which I feel like was a really good end for her character too, because she's found her place. Because the Enterprise, you know, the Federation was never quite her place, or the Starfleet. Anyway, and then Riker goes, and she's like, I think her only regret was letting you down. He's like, all right, thanks, number one. And they show him he's super sad at his in India. That's funny, James. I've always said that Bajor seems like India. Or, like, I feel like that was the main inspiration. Anyway, Picard's sitting at his desk all super sad. And it makes me cry. I'm S-tiering this one. This one's a good one. Alright, controversial time. Again, controversial export. All Good Things is the final episode. I do not like this final episode. The only series with a final episode that I like, a series finale that I like, is Voyager. Which is funny because I'm not a big Voyager fan, but I love the series finale of Voyager. I do not like this one. He is very upset, but he not cry on camera, James. Picard would never cry on camera, except for that time in the vineyard. No real tears, though, just cry-ish. Anyway, Picard is, like, traveling through time. He's like, what's going on? He's in the future, he's in the present, he's in the past. You get a glimpse of the future where Data's got emotions. He's a professor at... which university, guys? Oxford? Yale? Harvard? He's a professor. He's got his cats. The lady that's his housekeeper was in that episode when they were in the Old West. Geordi, it's implied he's married to Dr. Leah Brahms, which I guess means she got divorced. And all that. And then, but they know... Otter. They know that he has, what's the name of the disease? I want to say, shoot. He has a disease that's like basically a form of dementia. It's not in bold. Irremotic. There we go. I was going to say Iverson. I was like, that's not right. Irremotic syndrome, which is like basically a form of dementia. But in every timeline, he's trying to convince them they have to like go to this one place, and he's all like confused. And he gets the crew together, and in the future, Deanna Troi is dead. Riker and Worf don't get along because she's dead. Bloobity-da. True, Blacklight. I also don't like the Inner Light, which was controversial. And he brings them all to this one point. And then Q's there, and Q's like, I've never understood this ending. Maybe I'm an idiot, but he was like, oh, look, here's the primordial stew where the primordial soup where the origins of life are supposed to evolve. Here's what's gonna happen. Oh, it didn't happen. And it's all because of something Picard did. I never quite understood what Picard did that made it not happen. Anyone want to enlighten me on that? And Q fixes it. And then they basically end the whole Q timeline because, you know, the whole trial of humanity. And everything goes back to normal. And then Picard goes and he plays poker with them all. And he's like, I should have done this a long time ago. I don't love this one. I just don't. It's like B for me. I just don't like it. The trial never ends. Yeah, good one, Charlemagne. Better than DS9's ending. There's good parts of DS9's ending. Yes, the anti-time. Thank you, James. All right, that's it. Here we go. And who was it that was asking? Water, was that you? Was asking where did I put Darmok? Here is Darmok, S tier. So yeah, not very many S tier compared to B, C, D, F. There's a lot of F tiers. Oh, so... Oh, that's right. James is on top of it. So yeah, I love TNG. It's got the biggest nostalgia factor for me. I watched it the most, but also because I thought DS9 and Voyager were all TNG when I was a kid. So I thought... I didn't even realize that what I was seeing sometimes was actually... You don't think there's any good parts of DS9's finale, Charlemagne? Like taking over Cardassia? I mean, not really. You're mostly... I would mostly have to agree with you. I'm just a fan of For Cardassia! That whole bit. The Damar bit. I like the Damar bit. That's literally the only thing I like about Season 7. So yeah, TNG's got the most nostalgia for me. Objectively, I think DS9 is maybe a higher quality show once you get past some of Season 1 at least. Because even Season 1 starts to get good for DS9. But yeah. I did put out a poll about if I should rank DS9 next. That could be my Saturday thing maybe, and my games can be my weekday thing. Yeah, James, you're totally right. There are some episodes that are like super good. And then there's some that are pretty good, and then there's some, like you're saying, the filler ones, the freaking holodeck ones. They did so many holodeck ones in DS9 Season 7. It's like, dear God. Oh my God, Charlemagne. Have you ever seen what I have to say about Dukat? He is like one of my top favorite characters, and I could not agree with you more. Charlemagne, Dukat should have ended in Sacrifice of Angels. We should never have seen Dukat ever again. This is the thing I am most passionate about in the whole world. He should have ended there. They destroyed him. He was the perfect villain character arc, and they destroyed him. But yes, I do like the battle on Cardassia. The battle between Cisco and Dukat on Cardassia, I want nothing to do... I guess they're not even technically on Cardassia. Or I guess they are, the Fire Caves. I want nothing to do with that, but the Damar bit is good. I've also considered trying out Star Trek Online. Never played that. Might also do a hand cam stream to show off some of my Star Trek stuff, like my wine collection, and some of my other... I also have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer action figure collection. I've got my Spice and Wolf. I was gonna say Fox and Wolf, and I'm like, that ain't it. Spice and Wolf. So, yes. Oh, the Fire Caves are on Bejor. You're right, James. That wasn't Cardassia. You push the Dukat button. You're so right, Otter. Like, I can hear anyone say Dukat within 5 miles, and I just appear. It's like the Bloody Mary thing. Someone's like, Dukat, and I'm like, hey, somebody say Dukat? Anyway, any questions before I wrap up and show the concussion song? And I feel like there was something else I was gonna do. Monday, the next Royal Hour episode comes out. Making good progress on the 3rd. Just finished voicing it. And yeah, I agree, Charlemagne. Apparently in the comics or the books, they've done more Cisco stuff. And I'm like, nah, no thanks. No, thank you. Yes. So, actually I was working on a Dukat song, but I never quite finished it. The muse will strike again. Yeah, it's not furry if it's just a tail and ears, guys. Alright, here comes the song. Do-do-do-do. This is the song that my roommate wrote to try to cheer me up on Tuesday and Wednesday because I was pretty upset about having to go back on bed rest and having to deal with all the paperwork. So, she wrote this to make me feel better. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. The dog is telling me it's dinner time, I think. So yeah, she did that to try to cheer me up. Good roommate. And Charlemagne, I saw your request, so I zoomed in. And I'll scroll real slow. Got a pretty bad headache. I'm guessing it's just because you guys are just too stimulating. My brain is so stimulated. All right. Scrolling. Continuing scroll. Oh, my head. James, you just pushed it over the edge. You got here and then, like, just pushed the stimulation over the edge. Da, 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 da. Got a fever of 103. Hot-blooded, hot-blooded. I don't know what got that song in my head. That was random. All right. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Keep that page a scrolling right. Almost there. It's interesting. I want to analyze this like by season, like how many episodes are from each season are in each one. You got a fever, and the only solution is hashtag Bloodraven. All right. Wasn't planning on streaming tomorrow. I think it's probably good for me to have a break, but I will on Monday. yeah, planning a 2 on Monday. Hopefully all goes well. I'll be doing 3 hours a day of work is the next step in my return to work plan. So 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Monday. Monday, the usual time, the second episode of Royal Hour will come out, will premiere. And I think that is all. I shall prepare for the future DS9 tier list, and I will provide you the data on how many episodes from each season. I do think that'd be interesting. Maybe I can make a graph. That's over the top. But I got my doctorate for something, right? All right, everyone. Have a good evening.